scale that I was talking about. I have two groups to cover a population the size of the city of Chicago, the third largest city in the United States. So I'm not talking about 2 or 3 people or a little group of 4 people. We're usually talking about large organized rings. And sometimes we pick them up, they have GPSs on them, and we're able to dump that system and see where they were carrying these GPSs as they were routed through several different countries, down through Mexico City up to Tijuana, where they snuck across the border or they were trafficked across the border. And these are large organized operations. This isn't a pimp with 1 or 2 girls. Is what we focus on are the largest. Part of it is because the U.S. Attorney's Office has a very high threshold, and we do primarily federal investigations. So if we take to them a pimp with 1 or 2 girls, a lot of times we can't get a prosecution. We do end up taking that to the district attorney's office and we get something there. But if we take a large organization where they are trafficking, and we can see from their records, because they're business people. They're business people too when you get to these organizations, and we generally get a hold of the business records, whether it's on their computers or it's a logbook or something, and we can see where they've been operating for years, and we can see 200 different names. So when we come across one person, we know that's only one of 200, and the other 199, we could only wonder what happened to them. One of the statistics I remember we were taught a while back is if you go back to the United States, the very early years of slavery, and you cost adjust on what a slave owner paid for a slave, it varies, but sometimes it's into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Today, you can buy and sell a human being for sometimes $500, for $1,000. If you go into some of these underdeveloped countries, they will swap you a young woman for a pair of boots. And if you can somehow get them across the border into the United States and put them on the street, just like with these pimps, and force them to make $500 or $1,000, that is a very, very high profit margin for just a pair of boots, and that's one night, $1,000. You also have a different dynamic. Unlike drugs, and this is as profitable as drugs, unlike drugs, you get caught with drugs, it's done. You get caught with a girl, she has to cooperate. Also, I've never seen a kilo of coke get up and run away when the police showed up. Okay, but that's exactly. Yeah. But that is the dynamic that we see. So we come by, and the evidence or the witness runs away, or refuses to cooperate, or it's a very, very difficult dynamic. We also have the ability, we have international reach. So when we come across some of these individuals, and when we finally get through to them, and we find out that their families, or they're being threatened, that their family is going to be harmed, I personally have processed the paperwork to bring over as many as 8 people to protect their family while they cooperated with a larger investigation. And once we were able to establish that the threat was over, they generally went home happily, and we still hear from them sometimes. So there are a lot of tools at our disposal. Now, for those of you who have a pen and paper, our email address for the North Los Angeles County office is hsi.nlac, North Los Angeles County, at ice.dhs.gov. So you go through the airports, you go through the courthouses, you always see a sign that says, if you see something, say something. I would rather come in there and have 100 emails that mean nothing, or some slight little thing that we can't do anything about, or maybe just refer off, than to have you not write the email that we pull a thread on and it ends up dealing with a large trafficking or anything else that we deal with. As I said, we're full spectrum. Intellectual property rights, human trafficking, narcotics. We actually have a terrorist right here in Van Nuys, but we're on him, so he's soon to go away. He bombed an embassy overseas and fled to the United States, and we caught up with him here. So so we please understand we have to balance out our resources with the importance of the cases that we have coming in on a daily basis. And if we don't get to it immediately, it doesn't mean that we'll never get to it. But one thing that I do is try to make certain I can find a home for anything that really needs to be worked, where somebody is in distress. I've lived in the Valley since 1990. This is my home. I live north of here. I have a nice view of the valley. And every day I look at it and I think to myself, have I made this a better community? So I have a vested interest here. I want to make these streets better. From the East Valley to the West Valley, all the way up to Antelope Valley. So, you know, all I can do is tell you, if you see something, say something. It's hsi.nlac@ice.dhs.gov. Yes, sir. No, that's a good question. What he's asking is to what extent do we see the human trafficking or even just human smuggling overlapping with the drug organizations? We see it occasionally. It's not as much as it's rumored, or perhaps we're not seeing it as much as it happens. But generally, the human smuggling routes that come across the desert will often be used by the drug smugglers as well. And we started receiving intel a very long time ago that occasionally, to make a little extra money, when these human smuggling groups were coming across, they'd go, here, carry this backpack, carry this bag, carry this. And they just split up a load and have the smuggling load come in with the drugs. We have seen it once or twice, but not so prevalent that, you know, we've identified it. At least that's from the intel that we have. By the way, when you see television and they have Homeland and all that other stuff, the stuff we do is maybe not quite as cloak and dagger as that. But it is a rewarding job. I can tell you, probably the worst part of it is seeing what people do to each other. So, any other questions?
Very good. Thank you, John. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you. Up next, we have a special agent from the FBI, Ronald, I don't want to hack your last name, Schlegel. Schlegel. Agent Schlegel was here last year when we did our inaugural kickoff on the summit for sex trafficking, and has worked with us for years. And the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ron, which seems to be a very popular name tonight. I am with the FBI. I've been working the Innocence Lost Task Force for about 2.5 years. I am the coordinator for the Los Angeles field office, and what that means is with our satellite offices, for example, Long Beach, Victorville, Santa Maria, Ventura, Orange County, I help them coordinate their caseloads and provide them with whatever resources that they may need in order to do their job. Just very quickly, we cover 3 violations on my squad. The first being child sex tourism. I don't know if you guys may have remembered 2 years ago, we arrested Walter Williams, who was a USC professor who would travel to other countries for the purposes of having sex with underage children, specifically boys between the ages of 6 and 12. We arrested him the summer of 2013, and he's been in federal custody ever since. The other violation we cover is child pornography. We average at least 1 warrant a week in which we try to recover as many images and videos of exploited children as possible. As a matter of fact, we have one tomorrow morning. And so that is a very busy violation as well. And then the violation I specifically cover exclusively is the human trafficking aspect. Dr. Powell did a very good job covering the victim awareness approach, as did Sergeant Fisher, who I work with on a regular basis. And it's very much true. It has to be a victim-based approach in order to help these victims in this particular lifestyle. I completely agree with Dr. Powell. I would personally like to see harsher sentences for the Johns, because it's just simple economics. If there's a demand, then there will always be a supply. As far as the pimps, one of our objectives is to, punish them as best we can on the federal level. As you may or may not know, whenever we bring federal cases, the sentences are much harsher on the federal level than they are on the state level. And to give you an example, if a pimp is convicted to, let's say, 30 years, they got to do 85% of that sentence before they're even considered to be on parole. So 85% is a good chunk of 30 years. If I do the math correctly, I think it's about 26 years before they can be considered for any type of parole. So with that being said, I don't want to regurgitate anything that's already been discussed by my federal brethren, as well as Dr. Powell and Sergeant Fisher. But I wanted to actually give you a couple examples, real life examples of the victims that we have helped. Just yesterday, my team recovered a 14-year-old victim in South Los Angeles. The lead came to us 2 weeks ago from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. My team and I devoted about a week and a half into her recovery, which led to a successful recovery just yesterday afternoon. Upon her interview, we found out that she first became a human trafficking victim at the age of 12 and has been in the life ever since. And with her recovery, we were able to successfully arrest her pimp as well, and we are now building a case against him as we speak. This particular person was her third pimp, so in a 2-year time span, she's been exploited by 3 different men. Another example of a case that we worked, and the reason I give you these examples is to give face to this real life problem here in Los Angeles. Another victim we have helped was in September of 2013. 31 years old at the time. Very good background, raised in a very healthy environment. She was going to school. She was on her own. She was renting a home, had a full-time job, and unfortunately she got laid off. She applied all sorts of different jobs, positions, and everything else. Unfortunately, either she was overqualified or there were just not enough positions open for her at the time. After about 3 or 4 months of looking for a job unsuccessfully, she was kind of down on her luck, went out with a few friends, ran into an old college friend who convinced her to work where he works, which was at an escort agency. So for approximately 4 months, she was working for an escort agency until we made contact with her. And right away I could tell she wanted out of the life. It's not something she chose, it's not, or wanted to do, but because of her situation, she had no other way to support herself or survive but to work as an escort. I'm happy to say that now she's working full-time again. She's about 10 months away from getting her bachelor's degree, and I maintain regular contact just to make sure she's doing okay. One last example I wanted to give you before I open the floor to any questions was a 14-year-old that I recovered April of last year. The day after her 15th birthday, she wrote me this letter, which I'd like to share with you. Dear Ron, I just thought I'd write you a letter to thank you for everything, for being around, helping me out. Thank you for just making sure that I know that you're there for me. You and Liv, who is one of my team members, are both so supporting and kind. One day I'm going to help girls just like me too. You know I look up to you, and everything that you stand for. If there was more people as helpful and understanding as you in this world, it would be a much better place. One day, not far from now, I'm going to make you proud. You'll see. All the time that you and Liv have put into me will have been worthwhile. I promise. I'm truly thankful to have you in my life, even if it's just for a little bit. Thank you and have a good day.
I think that's the rewards for the job that you do.
Yes, absolutely. This is why I do what I do. And for Adriana, this is her name, Adriana. I am happy to say that she is now back home with mom and stepdad. She is about to enter her junior year. She's maintaining a 4A 2B average in school. And she can't wait to turn 16, which will be in August, so she can start working on a worker's permit. So again, you know, I think another big component besides punishing the Johns, targeting the pimps,
It's helping the victim.
is helping the victim. But at the same time, a fourth prong is to educate everybody about the problem and how to report it. I've had the privilege of presenting with Dr. Powell in several venues, CSUN being one of them. I've also presented to EMT workers so they can be familiar with if they are responding to a call, a domestic violence situation, to look at it at a different approach to see maybe it's not a domestic situation, it's a human trafficking situation. I just recently presented at UCLA with the registered nurses that work there, as well as the doctors, emergency workers, to again, see if they can recognize the problem for truly what it is, not just the injury in which they're seeking medical help for. So, you know, I think I can speak for all my law enforcement brethren. You know, we can't do it all. We need your help. You guys can be our eyes and our ears in order for us to help us do our job. So the proper education and just the simple awareness of the problem, as what you have seen in your neighborhoods, if you report it to Sergeant Fisher, the FBI, HSI, that will help us to do our job so that we can combat the problem that much more. So with that, I open the floor to any questions. Yes.
You know, we've heard so much from different phases of law enforcement how difficult the cases are when they go before the judges that preside over these cases. Yours probably is less problematic, I would guess, than a city attorney trying to prosecute a John at a local court. But what sort of cooperation or resistance do you get from the judges you appear before?
I really haven't seen that much resistance, at least at the federal level. It is, you know, just like, I mean, I used to work drugs and gangs myself before working this violation. It is a very it's a lengthy process in order to get to that level. As far as any resistance, I think because it's such an ongoing problem, having each case addressed in a timely fashion is probably the biggest issue at this point. I know with my caseloads, if it's taking too much time at the federal level, because we work with so many local partners such as the DA's office, LAPD, sheriffs, as well as CHP, we may just pursue a state charge. And to give you an example, one of my partners, Detective Chan from LAPD, he had a trafficking case in which 3 underage victims were transported from Portland to be exploited here in Los Angeles. Because of the work that would be required to present a federal case, it was agreed that they would pursue the human trafficking charges at a state level, and then at the federal level seek the child pornography aspect of it, because as you may know, a lot of these victims are exploited on the internet as well. So by me just simply taking my phone and taking pictures of my 14-year-old victim and posting them on the internet is a federal charge. Just the mere fact that I'm using my phone is a federal statute. So if I'm manufacturing pictures and then possessing them and then distributing, that's 3 separate federal charges right there. So it's a lot easier to build a federal case when it comes to the child pornography side as it is the human trafficking side, because there's a lot more that comes with it. But once it reaches that judicial level with the judges, if we do our jobs right and get everything that we need in order to get that conviction, it's usually an easy day for us. Anything else?
Anything else for Ron? Going once? Going twice? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
As always. Do we have Jackie Anderson in the room? Jackie Anderson. All right, so let's hear from the elected officials' offices. We're going to start with Guillermo. Guillermo, you ready to come and say hi to everyone? Yes. All right. This is Guillermo with Councilwoman Nuys Martinez's office.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I apologize beforehand.
Use the mic, Guillermo.
Oh.
Just hold it straight forward.
Okay.
There you go.
I want to break this. Hi, my name is Guillermo Marquez, and I represent Van Nuys for Councilwoman Nuys Martinez, Council District 6. And first and foremost, thank you, everyone who's here. Thank you for being here and presenting. I know you have the FBI, the DEA, Department of Homeland Security, as well as LAPD and the Mary Magdalene Project. And I apologize if I've missed anyone. I know Don spoke, and but I do beforehand apologize if I've missed anyone. So first and foremost, I'd like to apologize. The Councilwoman unfortunately could not be here tonight. She has a prior engagement, but she wanted me to come down here and speak. So I do have a few words to say. From day one, Councilwoman Martinez has been committed to ending sex trafficking in the 6th District, and our office has taken an active role with LAPD, the City Attorney's Office, and the District Attorney's Office, as well as local community leaders like those of GASP and COT, or CAHT. The Councilwoman has focused in 3 particular areas: prosecuting pimps, arresting Johns, and rehabilitating victims of sex trafficking. Some of these efforts include bringing John's School to the San Fernando Valley, creating wrap-around services for victims, including the Prostitution Diversion Program, and introducing various motions that crack down on businesses that support, businesses that support this terrible crime. And with the addition of a prostitution enforcement detail, CAR that was originally funded by the Councilwoman's office budget, we have made more than 144 prostitution-related arrests this year alone. And we arrested 58 pimps, more than a 20% increase from the year before. Today, the Councilwoman and our staff continue to join undercover vice operations and organize community public meetings throughout CD6 to keep residents informed about our progress. She continues to hold meetings with judges, prosecutors, probation officers, service providers, and advocacy groups. Thank you for your dedication to this issue, and the Councilwoman will continue to lead the city and this community on the fight against sex trafficking.
Thank you, Guillermo. Mr. Santana, you want to come and say hello? This is Marco Santana from State Senator Robert Hertzberg's office.
How's it going, everybody? And hello, everybody. As was said, my name is Marco Santana. I'm with State Senator Robert Hertzberg's office. So I've only been in office for,
Hold forward. There you go.
Here we go. You guys hear me better now?
Yeah.
We've only been in office since December, but I do want to mention that the senator before this was an assemblyman for the area, and he actually served as Speaker of the State Assembly back in 2000 to 2002 as well. So he's definitely very familiar with the issues. I'm glad to have just recently been appointed as the representative for the Van Nuys area because I actually grew up here. I was speaking with Mr. Thomas earlier, and I mentioned to him that I actually went to St. Elizabeth, which is in Van Nuys, from kinder to 8th grade, and I live in the area. So both the senator and myself are very familiar with the prostitution issue that's going on along Sepulveda Boulevard, because we both have lived and grown in the area. So since then, I just want to let you all know that one of the main efforts that we've been working on is beginning a public safety committee. I don't know if you guys were familiar with that, but back in the assembly days, he had a committee as well. So that's going to be one of the focal points moving forward. We have almost everything drafted, and I was letting Mr. Schultz know that I'm just finalizing the invitation, and then from there it'll be starting to send out to a few key folks for not just Van Nuys, but issues in the valley itself. In regards to the issue along Sepulveda, I don't have much of an update, but I have met along with my colleague from some member in Adri Nazarian's office. We have met with CHP, and they've let us know, and I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this, but they've been working on a lot of the transient issues, and they just had about a week and a half ago or two, they just had a big collaboration, with LEPD where they hit the 405 by the Roscoe exit. So we're trying to see what we can do to make the community and also Van Nuys better as we move along. But you guys are all free to contact us and the office. For those of you that don't know, our office is in the State Building. It's Suite 400. It's former Senator Padilla's old office. And if you guys haven't been, please feel free to come. It's a beautiful new office. It got redone, so I definitely would love to give you guys a tour and get to know you all a little more. So,
Thank you, Marco. And you guys have a popcorn maker too, don't you?
They do have a.
Yes, and they have a popcorn maker, so there you have it.
Thank you.
All right, Angie, are you ready? All right, this is Angie from State Assembly Member Adrien Nazarian's office.
Thank you.
Just pull it forward.
Oh, it's a family break. Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea Maya, and I'm a field representative for Assembly Member Adrien Nazarian. So unfortunately, the assembly member couldn't attend today, but he did ask me to come in his place. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the Van Nuys Neighborhood Council, as well as everyone who presented for taking part in this important summit. So this sort of dialogue that we're having right now is crucial to making our community safer, and that's exactly what the assembly member understands. So he's a firm believer that we need to work together to quell the serious public concern plaguing us today. Based on the recommendations provided tonight, we will look at options to help with solutions within the community, as well as working for in some legislation as well.